Hello everybody, welcome once again back to the channel. I am once again in the car, which means I have seen yet another new movie. I am not joined by my usual co-host DJ, and we are a little late getting this one out this week because of just important plans and stuff like that throughout this weekend. It's been crazy busy, so I am here on a Sunday, and hopefully I can get this thing up by the end of the day, or Monday, whenever you guys see this. Anyway, the film I saw this week was none other than the newest Western by Kevin Costner, Horizon, an American Saga Chapter 1. Overall, 1 out of 10. What would I give this film? It's a pretty solid 7.5. It is one of those things where it is a film that's purposely planned to be the first part in a multiple part saga. I think that they're planning on making 4 of these films in total, maybe 6, but I think at least 4 is the plan. 2 of them are coming out this year, July and August. Overall, the cinematography is gorgeous. The acting is relatively good. One of the things that I think really this film suffers from is, one, at times there's jumps, so there'll be time skips and jumps in time as they're going in between all of these different stories that are happening at the same time. So it gets difficult to really understand where they're at and how much things have changed. And it also seems like this film may have had some scenes in it that were planned to be in it, but got cut. So they'll reference something or they'll talk about something like everybody knows exactly what's going on and proceed from there. However, like I said, sometimes it just doesn't really fit super well. So the time jumps kind of get to me a little bit sometimes. The other thing is that this film loses about a half a point just because it is the part 1 in a 2-part film. So obviously it ends where you want it to continue a little bit, which is surprising to say after a 3-hour film. So, like, to its credit, at the end of the movie, I am very curious to see where everything is going for part 2. But at the same time, I was sitting in this movie for 3 hours, and it's still a 3-hour movie. So at the time, like, the credits come around, you're just like, oh, thank goodness. You know, not like thank goodness, but you're kind of relieved that it's over, but at the same time, it ends on such a powerful scene, like a powerful note, that I'm already interested, and I'm happy that the second part isn't like a year and a half out, but it's actually coming out, I think, 2 months from now. So, not even 2 months from now, like a month and a half. So that actually works well for it. This film is brutal. It earns its R rating, and like I said, there's a lot of action in it. There's a lot of dialogue. It's a classic Western. I'm not the hugest fan of Westerns, but I gotta give credit where credit is due. This is a very good Western. Cinematography is gorgeous. The scenery is gorgeous. And like I said, the stories are really good. So you follow the saga. The saga itself is the fact that it has like 4 or 5 characters that you're really invested in and you're really following. The issue is that because there's so many characters that you're following, you kind of feel like when you're really starting to get invested, they switch over to the next character. And when they switch over to another character, like I said, sometimes the time jumps and it doesn't really give you an idea that the time has jumped until they're like halfway through their conversation. And then you're like, oh, it's been like 4 months. It hasn't been like a week. It hasn't been like a day. It hasn't been a week. It's been like a while that they've been here between these stories. So that can be a little bit jarring. So what's happening in the movie is, like I said, all the characters have very compelling and interesting stories, though, and it shows a lot of different aspects of how the West was won. You have devastation, you have heartbreak, you have opportunity, you have an actual like intricate story. So like 2 of the characters have like very interesting stories that overlap. So they're kind of like the main pull, I think, of the movie. But at the same time, there's other characters that are all not really related. But it seems like what I think is going to end up happening is by the end of the film, all of the characters are going to end up meeting at this city called Horizon. I think that that's the idea, because they lay on pretty heavily that there's this place, it's Horizon, but it's like, it's real, but nobody's actually really seen it. And I don't even think we as the audience have actually seen Horizon. We've seen the people who have tried to get there, and we've seen people who try to make a settlement like it. I don't think that we've actually seen Horizon, the actual city on the pamphlet. But anyway, if you like Westerns, this is a very good movie. If you like good cinematography and beautiful landscapes, this is a good movie for that. The score is actually really solid, especially at the end. Like, they have a really... The ending is just, like, phenomenal. So, it's a little frustrating, though, because the ending is so phenomenal. It's like goosebumps, the sweeping score, these great shots, and I'm just sitting there going, they're advertising the next movie. Like, the last 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes of the movie is just advertising the next one that's going to happen. But, you know, when it pulls up the directed by Kevin Costner, by the point that they hit that point, I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to see this. I have to see the second part. So, I mean, kudos to that. So it's a good film. I do say that we should support most movies in movie theaters, just because, you know, good movies deserve to have good kudos. And a great way to give them kudos is actually going to the movie theater to watch it. I think that this film does actually really deserve, though, to be watched in the movie theater. I think that you get a benefit from the movie theater experience, but also this is probably the biggest film of the summer so far. So anyway, I'm done with that spiel. I recommend seeing it in theaters. If you can't see it in theaters, wait for it to come out on streaming and rent it. For sure, it's worth a rent. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and thank you guys for watching this. If you like these videos, if you like this channel, be sure to give us a thumbs up. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below about Horizon and American Saga, or movies in general. What movie are you looking forward to as we're moving into the summer blockbuster season? Otherwise, I'll move on into spoilers. Spoilers. Like I said, this film is very, very brutal. It starts out with, like, the Apaches massacring the Apaches kill 3 people who are, like, gridding the area so that they can sell off the plots of land. And then it moves forward, like, time skip, and it shows, like, the village that eventually shows up again there, and they get ransacked and slaughtered. And there's blood, there's guts, there's guns going off, there's people getting scalped. It is just brutal. This film shows the brutality of the West very, very well. And it also shows that nobody is a hero. Like, that is one thing. Nobody is a hero in this story at all. Because it really does handle it well, where it points out, and it's just like, hey, we don't need to glorify the people who are going west, but we also don't really need to glorify the indigenous people, because there are equally bad people on both sides. And it really shows that. So, like, there's absolute devastation from the Apaches, but then some of the settlers don't have a very good reaction to it, and they actually literally go out to hunt the Apaches that destroyed this village. But the thing is, when they go to hunt these people, eventually they become very indiscriminate. And there's actually a scene where they're talking to the military, and the military has, like, a really cool storyline too. The lieutenant and the sergeant have a very good story that we follow them. But when they show up at the village, it's like, hey, you're talking about bounty hunting specific Apaches, but here's the deal. You know, a lot of the indigenous people here look the same. So if you're starting to just buy scalps, there are peaceful tribes here, and there are violent tribes, but all of the tribes, if you scalp them, they're not really going to be able to tell the difference. There's also Mexicans here. Their scalps look very similar to the Apaches' scalps. And at what point are you going to stop? Because not only are you doing a bounty for the men, the warriors who came in and destroyed your settlement, you're also going to accept scalps from everybody else at a discounted rate. So when does the violence actually stop? It like I said, it does a really good job though of pointing out, because these guys are like, hey, I'm out for revenge, I'm out to get what's mine, and it's just brutal. So that storyline, the Apache and the Apache warriors and the Apache hunters, I guess is how you would kind of describe them. That storyline is just very, very brutal, and it really shows it from the perspective of a child who survived the massacre of the settlement, because he's hurt. Both of his parents were killed by these Apaches, so he's like, I need to go out and have vengeance. That's what they would want. They would want me to avenge them. But then we see his inner turmoil when he's put face to face with the possibility of actually killing somebody. And then again, when they find a village, when they find a settlement of the Apaches who had destroyed the village, and the hunters go in and destroy the village when the warriors have left, the kid is looking at the top of the hill, and you can tell that he's realizing, we are just as bad as the Apaches. We are just as bad. This is awful. The military has a great storyline because it follows a different survivor of this village, of this settlement, and her daughter being the only people that lived in their entire family, and how they move on. And they move into an actual settlement, like a camp that's set up by the army. It's protected by the army as an outpost, so it's safe, and they can have kind of a relatively decent life. And it shows how they bond with the soldiers, how they bond with each other, and also how, even amidst all of this thing, time moves forward and the mother starts to have feelings for the lieutenant. So it'd be interesting to see where that goes. Then there's the story that Kevin Costner's character is involved in, and Kevin Costner is just kind of like a guy. It's not really explained like exactly what he does, except we know that he is kind of a guy for hire. He's used firearms a lot. He's, very familiar with firearms, and he trades in horses and other things. And it's not really explicitly said what he's selling or what he's like trafficking and stuff like that. So he's kind of an interesting character. His character doesn't really get talked about too terribly much, but his character, we follow a very interesting story, and like I said, it's kind of like the biggest story. Like, there's the through line of the actual like settlement people, and then there's a through line of this other story that's like, there's a woman who tried to escape from like a really weird, abusive, clannish family, shot the dad and took her son and left to go west, and she tried to establish a new life by herself with her son. It's been like 2 years since all of this happened, but she's still being hunted down by the family members. So that's kind of where Kevin Costner's character comes in, is a guy who just so happens to have like a date with the friend of the woman who ran away, who's watching the kid, who's also a prostitute. It's kind of weird. And yeah, so it's like that's a different through line. And it's not really brutal in like heavy hardcore action right now, but it's brutal in the sense that it's like she's being hunted by people and they're not stopping, and it's like she's being hunted by them because she's associated with the woman who took her child back, and that woman, I think, was killed. They don't really explicitly say if she was killed or not, but I think she was killed. Her husband was. So that's kind of where everything is. There, like I said, there's a lot of these little threads and stuff that go through all of these stories, and they all kind of are heading west in a general direction. Oh, and then there's another like offshoot. I forgot the other offshoot is there's a wagon train that's heading west, and I think they're heading specifically for Horizon from the Santa Fe Trail, and we're following them and the turmoil of their camp. And specifically we focus on the captain of that camp and the family called the Proctors, who are foreigners who are on the trail, and they seem to be a little bit snooty and uppity, so it's causing a little bit of turmoil in the camp. We'll see where that goes. Overall, this film just it's good, it's engaging. It's so complicated that it could not be longer than it could be longer than 3 hours. But for a chapter 1, I don't think it could be shorter than 3 hours, because there are times when it feels like there's things just kind of cut out a little bit. Hopefully more things are explained in part 2. I think that I'll probably be able to get a better idea of exactly what this rates as overall as a part 1 with the part 2. That's the issue with these multiple part films. But I think I've talked about it enough. It's an interesting movie. It's probably one of the bigger films of this year, to be honest. I've watched a couple that were relatively good. As far as this month, like June, I think that this probably is one of the better films of this month, just overall as far as just classic cinema. So, again, if you've made it all the way to the end of the spoilers and you haven't seen this yet, I do recommend it. It is a very interesting story, and I'm sure it'll be just more interesting as we get into part 2. So anyway, I'll let you guys go. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Leave us a like. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We do new movie reviews. We try to do them every single week, as long as we're not too crazy busy. Otherwise, we watch old movies. We watch new movies. We watch bad movies. We watch hopefully good movies. And we let you guys know we just love movies, so that's what we do on this channel, is movies. If that interests you, subscribe, share us with your friends. Otherwise, we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.